Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Edessa-Shadows and Crusade, Season 2. Wherein tonight we set the scene once more with your favourite fellow of set, Saladrin.
I'm only the favorite because we don't have Gufran anymore. I accept the fact I was second fiddle.
This is true. Praise Gufran. Praise Gufran. We set the scene with Saladrin, who, upon hearing of fortunate, unfortunate, depending on your perspective, beheading of a particular noble of who was quite close to the regent of the city politically. Has been beheaded and buried through something of a hefty set of bribes from the man's family. Buried within the cemetery of the Prophet's Quarter. One of the more populated cemeteries, but not particularly large in area size, although you think in a decade or two they might have to. Saladrin can not be seen heading towards this cemetery, shovel in the hands of Nabetta and his two ghouls, as we are about to see that this man will not dig for himself. Others will dig for him.
I am not a dwarf, and I'm not digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole.
There's an old reference, but yes.
It's an old reference, sir, but it checks out. So.
I actually have that. It's right. It's right here. See, there you go. That's actually a Star Wars one. But anyway.
Of fucking course you have that. 10 out of 10, Mission. 10 out of 10.
I come prepared. But yeah, Saladrin, you are heading down the Prophet's Quarter. Probably having made your way through Himal's domain to get here, but you don't have any trouble on your way here. It's very dark out. There is actually a fair bit of activity in the Prophet's Quarter, like the Merchant's Quarter and the Bazaar. There is something of a nightlife, a nightly existence, but not quite as busy as the Bazaar or the Merchant's District. It's a little bit quieter. It's much more heavily residential, so there's less people out. But it does exist, and yeah, you make your way over to the cemetery, which has several little pathways that run through it. It's not particularly big, but it is fenced. The cast iron fencing sitting neatly atop some basic if sturdy brickwork. But there is very little light. There is no real torchlight. Making your way through here at night is probably, at least to mortals, would be ill-advised. There's little more than ambient light from the surrounding houses, from the surrounding neighborhood, and the starlight.
As we walk, let's pop on some more specs. Boop. I'm now not blind by the dark.
Oh yeah, you can see just fine. In fact, probably even in this darkness, not quite pitch black, but surprisingly close to it. You can still see better than the average mortal in daytime, at least you estimate. And you begin walking down the pathway with your cohort in hand. or directly behind. Walk down the pathway. You see a lot of gravestones. What a surprise cemetery. Judging by their judging by the amount here, though, and by the rather diverse set of how to say set of craftsmanship, by the diverse set of build or type, as it were. The cemetery seems to possess people of fairly wildly varying degrees of wealth and stature. Although some of the more premium gravestones, as it were, there are a few that are more segregated off from the rest of the smaller gravestones. But there are those that are quite large and quite ornate, still intermingled with the smaller, less prominent gravestones. And then there are those that are, barely more than etched rocks, probably from the poorest that exist within the city of Edessa or the Prophet's Court.
On a side note, Bishop, on Dice Roller 3, that is my Mask of a Thousand Faces roll. Holy shit.
Oh wow! So you get 1, 2, 3, 5.
Yes.
5 is 5. Come on, Bert, cooperate with me.
And not only do I get 5, I'm going to give 5 successes to everyone around me, because basically with Mask the Gathering, I can do this to multiple people.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can more or less just give the same effects to everybody else. So yeah.
Hang on. At this level of Obfuscate, at the 5 successes, I can mimic someone else perfectly, can't I?
Yeah. You rolling should be rolling 6 dice, not 7.
Oh, I thought it was with stealth.
Mask of a Thousand Faces is manipulation plus performance, difficulty 7.
Well, I fucked that up entirely.
I'll just take off the 1 success. It's fine. You still get 4 successes. I think you could still emulate. You still emulate someone perfectly. Yeah, the illusion is now so complete that the victims will imagine a vampire to sound exactly as the mask suggests. If it is a specific person, which I assume it isn't, the illusion forces the victims to imagine a vampire performing the correct twitches and physical mannerisms of the person they're mimicking. So you can appear as basically whoever you want to be, in a general sense.
Let's be that cunt. Let's appear as the Merchant of Bones.
Okay. Okay, you appear as the Merchant of Bones. Who is everybody else going to appear as?
They're just going to appear as random people. I'm going to switch the gender of everyone. So Nabeta is going to end up as a man, and the 2 ghouls, Ishar and Nimhar, are going to end up as women.
Okay.
And we're all so yeah. This is the new plan. We have a plan.
Everybody gets gender flipped apart from Saladrin, who is just now an old, aging, grumpy Cappadocian.
And it also says I mimic their mannerisms, which means the Merchant of Bones has a limp, doesn't he?
Yes, you would.
So yeah,
he has a ragged gait.
Does he walk with a cane?
I don't think that would. You could probably mimic his clothes. I don't think you'd be able to mimic the cane unless you
holding a shovel and using it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can use the shovel as you can master shovel as a cane.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll say because it can count as you can use the shovel to count as part of something on your person or part of your clothing, as it were. If it were like a house or something, then you wouldn't be able to mask that, but you can mask your clothing and the like. So with this power, so yeah, you still see the better as she is. She does feel the strange but yet familiar sense of obfuscation occurring around her and doesn't seem particularly troubled. She might perhaps be curious as to what's going on, but trust that it's probably you doing something intelligent and preparing to not fuck her over anytime soon.
I've kind of pseudo adopted Nabetta. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean she's down. Nabetta doesn't really, nothing really. She doesn't really change. She doesn't really miss a beat as she continues to walk. Although her expression does change ever so slightly when she feels the effects of obfuscate. She kind of, you can see that she sort of adjusts to it, or sort of recognizes it. It's like this weird expression of acknowledgement. It kind of shifts from recognition to acknowledgement. There's a
What we're
sense
gonna
of
do is, I was gonna say what we're gonna do is we're gonna do that. And then activate the obfuscate as soon as we enter into the graveyard. So as we're stepping in, I'm gonna drop cloak. I'm gonna drop the obfuscate to cloak us. So we're gonna walk into the graveyard as this motley collection of people. Yeah. So we're not just going to appear in the graveyard as this collection of people. Basically, we're going to have walked into the graveyard as these troop of individuals.
Okay. Yeah, you walk into the graveyard, and then about like part way in, you cloak yourselves entirely.
No, we walk into basically as we walk under the mask of shadows. He's going to under the unseen mask or whatever the fuck it's called, unseen gathering. I think
Unseen presence.
Unseen presence. Under the unseen presence, I'm going to activate the mask, and then as we enter the graveyard, I'm going to drop the unseen presence. So we openly walk into the graveyard. Me as the merchant of bones, and them as the random faceless other mooks, basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It was the opposite of what I was expecting, but yeah, no, that works.
The reason is Saladrin is thinking ahead. Well, if wraiths are ever questioned about what happened here, they're not going to turn around and say they appeared in the middle of the graveyard. They're going to remember us walking in, because if we appear in the center from a point where they can't see, that to an intelligent person would mean somebody appeared from obfuscate. The merchant of bones can't obfuscate. I mean, is that not reasonable?
That makes sense.
There you go.
But
at least I don't think he can obfuscate, so there you go. Evan doesn't know.
What did you say?
And I said, at least I don't think he can obfuscate, but Evan doesn't know, so.
Spooky.
Scary skeletons.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of those. There's a lot of those. But yeah, you walk in. You in particular, you walk in under the guise of the Merchant of Bones, using the shovel as a cane, and you can. I think you can mimic the Merchant of Bones and his cane because you've met him, so you know what he looks like. And yeah, you begin walking through the cemetery, looking for the grave site, or in this case, the dig site. It kind of does occur to you as you're going through. You're not entirely sure where this guy was buried because that was never really announced publicly. So you're going to have to do some searching around for him. The cemetery isn't too big, so you could probably find it within, in a worst case scenario, 2 or 3 hours. If you kind of if you split up, it depends. No, you can't do that because then you'd head outside the range of your cloak. So, yeah, probably 2 to 3 hours. Just maybe a perception alertness roll, and we'll see how quickly you can find them.
Is this minus all specs?
I will say yes because all specs plays a pretty significant role here.
on a side note, because I'm gonna just give me a second. I have to do that back, and I apologize, Vaughn, in advance. Fine.
It's fine.
There we go. There we go. See? Mm-hmm. Because that's totally me now. Look at me being Alexander Siddiq. It's good, right?
Yeah, you are you find his gravesite really quickly. Use your superior senses to really just scan over the entire area, take in information unnaturally fast. It's almost like going through 10 pages in a book in about as many seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And you very, very quickly locate the grave. Your senses stretching almost over the entire cemetery when you really push yourself. Obstructions such as trees and the gravekeeper's shack aside, or the groundskeeper rather. And you also spot also spot this gentleman. He's a fair distance from you. He's about halfway across the other side of the cemetery right now. He appears to be filling up a gravesite of his own. Not digging up, he's actually just laying someone to rest.
In that case, we will wait until he will obviously see us trekking through the nether regions eventually.
You can see that he is definitely very pale. With your heightened senses, he wears a rather patchwork series of rags and robes. The lower half of which, from the waist down, is a bit dirty and dusty. And he carries with him a worn shovel, and has a very nasty scar down the left side of his face. Although his hood and his rather heavy clothing covers up most of it. It helps that it's dark out.
Important question. Sorry, I actually should do my hunting roll because this might become important.
Yeah, feel free.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I'll stick with the 7. I don't need to hunt again. Did I need to spend, like, does the Merchant of Bones have an appearance above 2 that I need to spend blood to take on, or no?
That is actually relevant, yeah. Let me double check for you. Now, I think I already know the answer to this question, but no, you don't need to. You don't need to spend blood for him. He does not look particularly remarkable. So it doesn't require an exertion of your blood to mimic his form. And I do like the fact that you have now changed your overlay.
It's fine.
But yes, you begin. I assume, begin walking to the gravesite, or do you just wait for Baylor?
He waits for Baylor, kind of nonchalantly leaning on his cane shovel.
You wait for him. He takes a few minutes. He just lays the body to rest and then begins burying the body, burying the hole in the ground, burying the grave. While you're waiting, would you like to roll me a perception awareness check?
I really would.
Heightened senses also apply here.
What's the diff?
It will be. Um, 1 second. Oh, nope. And she just needs to double check. It will be. Okay. It will be difficulty 5. So minus your specs. So
Difficulty 3.
yeah, so you get 6 successes. Yeah, as you kind of scan the area as you wait, really felt a little bit odd walking into the cemetery. Definitely felt like you're walking through rather thick, dense air. Like it's kind of almost if it's almost as if it were like like you're just walking through like a park on a foggy morning. It's kind of like that. And as you kind of take in your surroundings, particularly for heightened senses that allow you to see this extraordinarily clearly, you do notice unnatural oddities within the environment. A lot of the grassland appears somewhat gnarled and a bit withered. You can feel an almost tangible sense of depression in the air. And the place... The pace, and this might sound odd, it being a cemetery, but it smells of death. It smells as if someone just died. Like there is a scent of like fresh blood and open wounds, and bone. It doesn't smell bad necessarily. It doesn't smell rotting, and particularly the smell of blood is appealing to your canine senses. There is a sort of unnatural wrongness to this place.
As he's experiencing all of this, let's go ahead and turn on my Shadowlands site. It's only difficulty 3, so bum 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 bum. So that's 1, 2, 3. I still get 3 successes. It turns on fine. Sorry, it's difficulty 4. My apologies. So 2 successes. It still turns on fine.
Yep. You do see a healthy amount of ghosts. This is a cemetery. They largely seem to be minding their own business. They also don't really seem to recognize that you are watching them. They don't seem to actively give you any awkward stares or anything that would suggest that they are otherwise aware that you're aware, so to speak. A lot of them appear to a lot of them seem to be fairly average-looking mortals. As you look around towards the grave that obviously you're looking for. You do not see a ghost around there. Although some ghosts do pass by it. But keep their distance, oddly enough. When you kind of you take your time looking at it, you do notice they tend to sort of treat it almost like a black spot in a cemetery.
Interesting. He waits for Baylor to basically notice that he is there. Because, once again, this is essentially from his perspective, his primogen. So he's expecting the same kind of deference I give my primogen whenever they show up in places, but we'll see how he acts.
As he finally finishes and you've kind of taken in your environment, He notices you, and his expression doesn't change too much. He has this very neutral, leaning towards irritated expression on his face at all times.
Let's
But
I was gonna say let's just aura sight him just to be 100%. So that's perception, empathy, isn't it?
yes, perception, empathy, difficulty 8 minus your rank in all specs. Sure.
So that's 2 successes.
Okay. 2 successes. Are you ready for colors?
I fucking hate you.
Oh man, he is a very he is a well
He's a very what? Sorry.
um hmm. There we go, finally. Okay, it's fixed.
And I'm back. What happened to you?
My contact. I do apologize. Where did you lose me?
I was just getting colors.
Colors. Okay. Wow, that was weird. Yeah. Okay. He is heavy shades of light blue and lavender, which means light blue standing for calm and lavender standing for conservative. His and it seems to be fairly consistent. Doesn't really fade too much when he sees you, although his conservativeness does fade a little bit. It does shrink fairly substantially, but it's still there, still present. You can see it in his aura, but it's just a lot smaller. Seems to have a degree of caution in all things. He seems to be very emotionally sedate as he approaches you. He's ever so slightly hunched over as he does, but doesn't show too much. It's just a tad. It's just something. It's just enough to be noticeable. And he begins to approach you, and you get a better look at his face, and you see that he is fairly aged. He's in his maybe late 40s, early 50s. And the scar you can see it's pretty looks like a burn mark. Looks like he was really significantly burned in the face in one point in his life. Maybe it was a wound that never healed as he approaches you with shovel.
Baylor, it is good to see you.
Master Matarasi, what brings you back to my cemetery? I hope it is not to dig up another grave. I was quite disturbed the last time that happened.
No. More so, I've come to answer a question. I needed answers from an individual on the other side of the shroud, but he doesn't seem to be here.
He strokes his thick but not particularly long beard. He says, "Who that resides here? Do you refer to any of the more recent entries?"
Indeed, he will denote the grave of the individual in question.
Mr. Bolos. Charged with heretical acts, consortion with unholy figures and deities, and promptly condemned to beheading, although his admittedly wealthy family did secure him a modest funeral. No, I have not sensed for more obvious disturbances that I normally do from the recently departed. Admittedly, it is not my specific area of expertise, but it is something I have noted, and something that concerns me about him in particular. His particular gravesite seems to exhibit more severe symptoms of ritual sequela. I have been looking into the matter, seeing what I can do to alleviate it. I do not wish for it to spread further over the cemetery and corrupt everybody else's remains here.
This is wise. Perhaps there was something done to his form during the burial, or he was buried with some charm or token to keep him locked within himself, as it were. It's not uncommon. Maybe that could be seeping through.
Maybe. I have communed with some of the recently dead here, and I have asked them for their assistance, but they refuse to go anywhere near the dig site. It is disturbing. So I have not been able to make much progress other than utilizing more conventional and known measures to stop the spread of corruption. It seems to have contained itself to the grave site, but I do not wish to take chances.
Right. In that case, well, maybe we should have the body moved so it cannot contaminate that which is around it. Would you be agreeable to this?
Baylor stops. He seems. Are you still reading Azora? Or
Yeah, still reading Azora.
Yeah, there is a shift in his aura. There is a sense of actually, I'm gonna keep giving you colors because I know you don't like it.
I hate you so much. You know what? Now it's gonna be two fucking Nosferatu who guard the motherfucking Seneschal's house. Go fuck yourself.
Wow. All because you can't taste the rainbow.
One of them is the Abdul's even bigger, angrier brother named Jamal.
It's just it's Abdul and Jamal, two twins.
Yeah, totes.
There is a set. He is what this register as? It would register as registers as dark blue.
Just tell me what dark blue is.
Suspicious, ill at ease. And the lavender does sharp a little bit. The blue sort of fades in proportion to the lavender. So he seems a bit cautious and a bit off, a bit suspicious about something. Maybe a bit superstitious, you're not sure. But that is sharp in dark blue people sometimes.
Right, okay. Over the next 2 or 3 rounds, I'm going to bleed up to 7 in my dex and up to 7 in my strength. This trip is going to be a fucking win, even. I have a plan. So he kind of puts his hand on his shoulder. Or, no, he doesn't touch him. But he says, very well. If nothing else, I'll examine the gravesite. Would you mind leading me to it?
Oh, of course. I am not necessarily opposed, but rarely at ease digging up the dead. It is potentially disruptive to the rest, even if it is to aid them in some way.
I completely understand.
But yes, it is right this way. He will begin taking over to the gravesite, to the grave of former Chancellor Bolos.
As he does this, very, very calmly, he just kind of puts his foot on the bottom of the shovel and pops the actual metal piece of the shovel off. And as they walk, plunge right into his back.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm going to impale him with a shovel. So it's ordinarily difficulty 8 to do because it's a cold shot to the heart. It's difficulty 8, isn't it?
To make a cold shot to the heart, it's difficulty 9.
Is it?
Yeah, staking's actually really hard.
Right, fuck me, okay. Mind you, I do have the flank on him, which means has his back turned to me, so that's -2 diff.
It's difficulty 7, yes.
Cool. In that case, I have 2 successes, which means 1 rolls over. Hi, my name's Saladrin. I'm a dick. On this action, fuck it. It'll only last the turn, but I'm going to split blood spent up to strength 10.
It lasts for 3 turns.
Oh, okay.
On the third turn, it goes back down to your generational maximum.
And I'll spend blood for my potence, because that means I spent 4 in the turn, which is my generational max.
Okay. How much blood do you have left?
After I do that, I start it with 16. I blood buffed, so 16 minus 3 minus. I'm currently on 6.
Okay. Ooh.
What damage? Because it's much bigger than a stake. So what damage do you give a shovel?
It's an improvised weapon. I think if you're using are you using the wooden end of the shovel?
No, basically he's basically used his foot to kind of loosen the metal end out. So he kind of drew it. He drew the metal end from the bottom of it before he impaled him with the wooden piece at the end.
Okay, so you just took off the shovel head and just.
Yeah.
I think it would actually still be +1. I don't think there's actually a significant difference.
Cool.
I'm just going to double check, but I think just going to double check weapons real quick, but I think it just still counts as stake and still +1 damage. Not that you need it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 damage in all.
Okay.
Does he have enough stamina and fortitude to not take the 3 damage to be staked?
I'm going to double check. Because he can actually, I think he has the capacity to try. I don't think he's likely, but I think he can try. Got that. Okay, I'll roll him. So basically, he needs to get all successes on this check. Oh, wow! What? Okay. Alright. I guess fate just wants you to fuck off, Saladrin. I don't know what that was about. That just actually happened. That was a thing. So, amazingly, he doesn't actually get staked. He is almost staked.
There's a legitimate sigh of.
It's like, wow. That is actually insanely unlucky. That is 5 successes on a 5 dice roll. He literally needed all of his fortitude and all of his stamina, including the 1 armor, it's the 2 armor dice he got. He does actually lose a dex off that. To actually resist that, and he got it. He legit got it.
Hang on. So I did 10. That means that he has at least.
He soaked 8. So you almost stake him.
Give me just a second. I have to check something because there is one really important thing. Because I looked at this the other day. Once again, if I'm wrong, I'm entirely sanguine with it. I'm just gonna stake him on the next turn because by God, I'm gonna fucking have this mofo.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Because I don't know how. Hang on, give me just a second. I have to check. because I was reading this the other day, and I thought that was really weird. Give me just a moment. I want to just check how Fortitude Dark Ages works. Jesus Christ, are you literally just typing the fact that this was a thing?
Yeah, I actually honestly expected you to just stake him. I just got insanely lucky on the roll.
I mean,
that is
it's entirely
extreme.
It's entirely fine because it'll now go to initiative anyway.
Yeah, I'll go to initiative, and I have no doubt you're going to go first.
Holy shit, though, bro! That was immense. I
think because because they're under Mask of 1,000 Faces, which does not break in combat. So yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Hang on, let me just check something. A character, a vampire may use their fortitude dice to soak once per turn. That's really weirdly written. Okay, because it says once per turn. Is that their turn or in a combat turn?
What do you mean?
Because the actual wording of fortitude, I think the actual spending of blood to automatically soak can only be done on your turn. Yeah, because it says a vampire may use her fortitude dice as soak dice against aggravated wounds, which the vampire typically has no recourse against. Once per turn, she may spend a blood point to automatically soak her fortitude rating instead of adding her rating to stamina. This can be used to soak aggravated damage as well, but no damage from fire or sunlight. So, but that's per turn. So is that your? Because I read that as on your turn you can spend blood.
Yeah, but haven't we always declared celerity and potence before turns? Like we've always declared them.
To be fair, I've never really been in combat with I don't use fortitude, but my logic is that on your turn you have to, because you've hit me with you hit Lucian with this. Lucian had fortitude, and you said that he had to spend it on his turn with his expenditures for celerity and potence. It's up to you. I don't mind.
Wait, with Lucian, I think it wasn't on his turn. I think he had to declare for it. You can declare for it and spend. You can basically what happens is because spending blood is reflexive.
Okay, cool. In that case,
that's because I know that because we've done that before where people have spent for potence and stuff. And we've actually had multiple combats with Soladra as well, where he declares for potence and stuff. And
yeah, but he declares his potence on his turn. I don't know. Can you declare fortitude on somebody else's turn? Can you declare the spend? If you say you can, that's entirely fair, and I'm not gonna. I don't care enough to argue.
I think you can because if someone with like potence goes before you can't spend the fortitude.
I think that's the point, though. I think the point is it's better to go first in combat because then you can put up your defenses. But once again, I'm happy to.
But then if you go last, it doesn't serve any purpose.
Yeah, basically, from where we are at the moment, because I've stabbed the thing in because we're at this weird point in Vampire. I've stabbed it into his chest, so now I just have to ram it through. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
So I'll make so we'll roll initiative.
I think we'll roll initiative and we'll revise that roll after the fact because I was of the impression that you could just
No, once again, it's up to you. I read it differently because it's weirdly written. If it had said,
I suppose vampire rules weirdly written.
Welcome to any World of Darkness game with subjective wording.
Yeah, you are right though. It does say once per turn, which is weird.
And of course, in this roll, I roll a 1.
I mean, you have plus 11. He's going to have to roll pretty high to beat you, I think, because he does lose a dex from his armor, so he doesn't actually have that high. He needs to roll, I think, 5 higher than you.
You said that he has to roll thing just before now, so don't fucking jinx me, Chris. Jesus Christ.
I think he should also probably roll for Frenzy as well, because that was a tremendous amount of damage. So I'm going to have him roll for Frenzy. Actually, no, I'll have him roll for Initiative, because he's going to be using that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And roll for that. No, he doesn't roll high enough. You do go before him. He actually he needs to roll 6 higher than you.
There's also Nebeta and ghouls.
Yeah. So Nebeta, I have to get up character sheets.
And you know what the great thing is? When they come to question the ghosts about who did this, and they describe the merchant of bones. No, to be fair, my actual plan, because I needed to blood bond the Cappadocian anyway, in order to get information on the clan and get information on how to move forward with certain plans. My actual plan is to blood bond this guy. I mean, realistically, he's not going to be missed over 2 or 3 days. Because you can blood bond somebody while they're torpid, can't you?
Yes, you can. Yeah, torpid doesn't stop blood bonds. Okay, so she's that. I keep forgetting she loses 1 because of her armor. So,
on the side note, you know, I lived life just to throw you curveballs, right? Because you did not expect me to just turn around and impale this mofo with a shovel.
I thought you just leave him to the grave site and then tell him to go fuck off somewhere, and then you just dig it up. I wasn't expecting you to just try and kill him or attack
I'm not
him.
going to try and kill him. I'm going to try and blood bond him. God.
And your ghouls. Sorry, I'm just trying to get up all the stats because I have to have like 4 sheets open now. And your guys. I'm just going to give them the +6. This will be for both of them. So they go last because they're shitty ghouls.
Wow, Nebeta's like, fuck you, boss. I go first.
Yeah, Nebeta's actually somewhat fucking confused. So I'm not entirely sure what action she's going to take. In fact, probably the safest and most logical action she can take, because she's not entirely sure what you're trying to do. If you're trying to like stake this guy or kill him, or because it's kind of made unannounced. So she's just going to go try and grapple him because that works regardless of what you do to him.
I mean, that's entirely valid. I'll take that sweet -3 diff or whatever the fuck it is when you're grappled. It's stupidly low.
Yeah, it's like it's a -3 diff. I think when you grapple someone, they're like immobilized and they can't move. So she's gonna roll. She'll spend for her potence, which is 2, and she will roll. No, what? She will roll that, and she'll roll that. She doesn't have a specialty hitter.
Yeah, on the side note, if I ever take, when melee becomes a thing, I'm taking a specialty in shovel.
And Bill probably spend a willpower to cover one penalty for this turn, and it's just going to roll his, wow, actually not terrible dice to this. Maybe because he's just pretty physically strong. But he is grappled. Nebeta quickly moves to him and grapples him.
Okay. I leave it up to you because it's now stupidly low difficult. It's now very low difficulty. I've kind of got this thing in his chest, so should I just push in?
Yeah, go for it.
By the way, on my turn, because there hasn't been enough time for there to really have been a lot of noise, let's throw up Obfuscate 1 to basically dampen the noise just in case people hear the struggle.
Okay, gonna reduce the noise. Yeah, because Thaylor did let out quite a mighty roar when you almost killed him.
I mean, it's fine. So, right.
Granted, you're in the middle of the cemetery, so the noise won't travel that far outside of it.
What do you want me to roll now that it's already in his chest?
Roll me Dex melee. Diff 9 minus the grapple bonus, which is I think -3 diff, so it's just standard diff. To strike him in the heart. I will say, because you did embed it in his heart, and because my roll was obscenely lucky, that you only need to score 1 damage on him. He will be declaring for fortitude, needless to say. Because, well, that's unfortunate. Well, I mean, he can't dodge, so you do hit him.
This is entirely life fair. I'm also going to spend for my potence.
Yes.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
No, you have potence 2, not 3, remember?
Oh yeah, but hang on. I was counting that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, sorry, I counted the 6 at the end as a success. I fucked that up. My apologies.
Oh no, you put 11d10 6f1. So with the 1/1, it would be
7, 8. Yeah, no, that is right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So well, he has to soak slightly less this time. He doesn't need to get every success. He just needs to get 4. And knowing my rolls as an ST, I probably will.
Don't fucking jinx it. Just fucking roll the dice.
Yeah, no, you do get him. You do the 1 damage. You do actually get him. So yeah, you just stake him.
Isn't there like a poetic irony in staking a grave digger with a shovel?
Yes, there is. I was hoping it would not have to be mentioned, so the watchers could pick up on the subtext. But then again, who watches these? We're ungrateful bastards. So yeah, you literally force the last of the shovelhead through his heart. It is a mighty push. He is surprisingly durable for a neonate. It does kind of strike you as odd, but you do manage to, with your now immense strength, force the shovel through, or the shovelhead, not the shovelhead, sorry, the shovelhead was removed. The end of the shovel stake through his body, and it just kind of leaves him impaled upon the ground. As you push all the way into the ground, and just kind of leaves him there, kind of just kind of hanging, just slightly above the ground. The bet actually has to get out of the way, so she's not staked herself.
The Saladrin kind of pokes his head around the side of it, just like, honestly. He looks at Nabetta and kind of shrugs, and he says, I think unfortunately our friend here had made us, but bear in mind, she looks like a man in this particular situation. But yes, because that doesn't change. We don't drop our masks.
No.
But yeah, you can use the same picture to note she's talking if you'd like. Well, there we go. Now then, he turns to the ghouls and just kind of gestures towards the grave. Don't
Do
just
you
stand
drop?
there.
Do you drop the obfuscate, the silence effect? So you can
Oh
talk?
yeah, so we can talk.
Yeah.
He kind of gestures to the ghouls. Don't just stand there. Get digging. Honestly.
The ghouls. There's like that brief moment where they look between themselves, as if they're missing a third stooge for the trio, and quickly get to work, looking rather nervous considering you just impaled someone in front of them. They may be faithful, but they're not entirely immune to seeing someone impaled.
Pants
Eventually. Give it a decade or two, they'll get used to it. You'll kick the softness out of them.
Just in case anyone bimbles into the ceremony, I'm going to throw unseen presence on fuckwit over there.
Oh, I don't actually. Ooh, one sec. 'Cause I think doing that to an unwilling target has to be obfuscate 7.
No. He's not unwilling if he's staked. At that point, they cease being living targets and they cease having free will.
That is true. Yeah, if he was active, yeah, you'd need obfuscate 7. But if he's staked, because he's in torpor. So yeah, you're right on that. Yeah, he would. You can just make him like ignored.
And then I could use Mask of 1,000 Faces, and he could appear as a small hill. I'm only fucking with you. We're gonna.
Yeah, no, I think that would actually take a higher level obfuscate. That would take conceal, I think. But yeah. You can make him appear as Gerard, I guess, for your own purposes of entertainment. But yes, you guys get to work digging into the grave. It's a cemetery. It's really dark, and
I don't know why.
This is a little bit off the path. This is the grave site of a heretic. This was well out of the way. This is not like, oh, these poor people pay respect to the dead. This guy's like nominal respect to the dead. So this grave site is out of the way. It's very dark. No one's going to interrupt this. You're at no risk here.
By the way, important question, because it actually takes a really high level power to be able to look over into the real world from a wraith perspective. I'm just going to kind of glance around under my shadow side. I take it most of the wraiths here, I don't assume any of them could. Most of them probably couldn't see what just happened, the conflict that just happened.
Can wraiths see into the physical world normally, or do they have to actively try?
No. They actually have to have a rank 2 power to do it. It's a corpus power. They actually have to be able to spend corpus and activate a power.
Okay. I'll roll D10 and see if one is there. I'll just say 6 or above. Because it doesn't strike me as the highest level ability. It strikes me as something that would be... Would you argue that's like... Because you know more about Wraith than me. That's fairly common.
That makes sense. Maybe like 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 10 Wraiths can have powers. That's how they work.
Yeah. No. No. There's no race here that seem to notice you. So you assume that they probably can't see you from across the shroud, even if it's fairly thin here. They probably don't possess the capacity to do so. So yeah, they seem to, because this is something that would have drawn attention if they were looking on the physical side. In fact, they'd probably be laughing.
While this happens, myself and Nebeta are just going to sit and play like a game of cards or something while the two physical stooges actually physically stooge.
Yeah. Nebeta's just kind of forming a bit of sleight of hand, legerdemain, which I actually want to see if she's any good at. She has some. Yeah, she has some. She's fairly practiced in legerdemain. So yeah, she's just kind of. She's just she's like a 1 Like, she just kind of opens a satchel and just starts, like, shuffling cards just to keep her hands moving. Just kind of doing something. Yeah, actually, I've noticed this about Nabetta. She always needs to be doing something. She's only really standing still if you're actively telling her to do so. Otherwise, she's always doing something. She's not necessarily fidgety, but she's very she always acts with purpose.
Saladin's kind of he's kind of the opposite. He's quite content to sit there with his back against a gravestone and just wait. He's a very patient snake.
Yeah. Yeah, Nabetta's almost the opposite in that regard. Again, not necessarily impatient, but always needs to be doing something to while away time or to be contributing something. But yeah, it takes digging out of two people with a good degree of supernatural physical abilities really won't take that long for them to dig it up.
I was going to say, at least both of them at least have one dot of potence.
Yeah, they don't have... It's less the potence, more the fortitude, so they don't tire out. Because even with potence, there's only so much dirt they can grab up with a shovel. They can do it more quickly, but they don't get tired, and that kind of also optimizes things. So yeah, they did get up within like 5-10 minutes. They did go up much more quickly than an average person, particularly since they need to be far less subtle as well.
This is a relatively new grave, so when we actually comes time to pour back in the earth, it won't even appear as though much has changed because like there hasn't been time for plant matter or anything like that to grow.
No, well, it might look a bit untidy, but other than that, it will, as you say, it will be fairly unchanged. So yes, you dig up the, or rather your stooges dig up the grave, they find the head, they find the rest of the body.
Under aura sight, or shroud sight actually, because I can have both. Is there something fucked up about this corpse?
The corpse itself possesses no aura, no. Can roll me... you can roll me perception awareness around the gravesite.
Difficulty?
Difficulty 8.
Minus all specs, or because I have all specs?
Minus all specs.
3 successes.
Nice. Yeah, you notice you're using aura perception. You don't notice an aura on the corpse. But being near this particular gravesite, it's as Baylor said, like the effects of what you've been feeling around the cemetery are amplified here. You notice that the dirt is actually just black, like it's. But it doesn't look like it's almost like it just lacks any sense of like it lacks any nutritional value. There is nothing there. It feels it kind of crumbles, and not like dirt does. It kind of almost like it crumbles to kind of like dust. It's very, very grainy. the tombstone, or the tombstone, the gravestone, is has also kind of been somewhat blackened around the rims, and it and the site itself feels very tainted. It's the rest. You get the feeling that this entire cemetery has been afflicted in some fashion. Like there is the struggle for life to succeed here is very real, even in the plant life, or rather, only in the plant life, as people don't live here. Like it, and this place looks well looked after. Like there is a real effort put into maintaining this cemetery. It's not like they just left this place to rot. Someone, and presume maybe Baylor or any of his servant, maybe if he has servants, maintain this place. The fact that this place is so well maintained, like it's so well looked after, and life is still struggling to succeed here, and in this place, life just seems to not exist, like it's just dying. Is somewhat worrying. It's the closest you could compare to this is it feels unholy, like something. It definitely feels unholy, like something wrong has afflicted this place. The corpse isn't really contaminated, other than with it's rotting and decaying normally. Other than the fact that there's no animal life in it. There's no worms or maggots or anything that have gnawed
Saladrin is
through
going
it.
to smile very broadly. He is going to remove a knife from the folds of his robe, at which point he jumps into the grave, shooing away his servants left and right. I plunge the knife into the corpse's chest, and I rip open the rib cage Blood Eagle style. And I'm going to...
Okay, yeah. You would notice that I say the body was decaying normally. It would probably be decaying at a much slower rate given the lack of life nearby, so it probably have decayed much more slowly. But you rip it open. The blood is... there is still some blood left in the body.
Saladrin is going to use his knife, and there's a very specific reason I do this. He has an idea, and I think it's a fairly good idea. This thing, at one point in its life, was a ghoul, and I think this was a ghoul to somebody very powerful and very nasty, basically intimating why even now the body is so unholy that it is anathema to the area around it. Because it still has some of their unholy juju running through its veins. I'm going to cut out its heart.
Okay. You take the heart of the corpse,
because the heart is where Vitae is stored, isn't it?
Yeah, there isn't much, if any, blood left in it. It's probably because it's a corpse and it's been drying out for a while.
If this was a ghoul, there might still be enough residue in there for what remains if it's squeezed out to serve as a sympathetic link to whoever the Domitor was.
Yeah, but you can take the heart. The rib cage is ripped open. There is a little bit of blood splatter, but not much. Again, it's a corpse, and what blood is there is actually fairly hard to see because it's kind of brown and lifeless. It's very dark and dim. And yeah, you are left with, well, a corpse and a staked corpse. And a heart that you can package however you please.
Saladrin is going to basically put the heart into a bag. He's going to have the heart preserved when we get home, back to the temple, because we actually do have the ability to preserve organs and pieces of organs. It's actually a ritual. Fun fact. But he is going to then. He's going to say to. Yeah, no. He's going to have Tweedledee and Tweedledum, as I'm now going to affectionately refer to them as. Step back from the edge of the grave as he hoists himself up. I take it with my now stupid levels of strength, at strength 7, I can pick up the corpse of, or the whatchamacallit, the body of Baelor rather inconsequentially.
Oh yeah. Carrying a body is you could carry like dozens.
He's going to have Nimhar and Ishar fill in the hole. Basically, before we leave, we're going to fill in the grave site, and he's going to stress to them to make it look neat and tidy.
Okay.
So
I'll have them roll for that. It's a physical dice roll, so they're actually pretty good at it. I'll have
they're like level 3 ghouls, aren't they? I haven't checked their stats in a really long time.
Yeah, they're both level 3 ghouls, so they're pretty good at what they do. Although they are better at social stuff, so they're not quite not physical experts, but they have they don't actually possess fortitude. I'll just have them, they get to roll 6 dice. That's a good dice pool. They get to roll 6 dice. And yeah, they get like a cumulative 4 successes. It's not quite perfect, but it's almost perfect. Unless someone was actively looking and was looking well, they wouldn't find anything. It's almost exactly how it was.
Mm-hmm.
There's the barest differences, but that's and it's a bit difficult to tell, as this is not exactly a profession of yours, whether that's avoidable. But it's about as good as it could be.
Cool. In that case, yeah, he's going to he's going to pick up Baelor and hoist him over his shoulder. He kind of gives the head jerk to Nibetta, saying, "Come on, we're leaving."
She just nods. She doesn't say a word.
And since there are no wraiths here that can perceive us anyway from the roll, and by the way, just in case, I'm going to scan around just to make sure that no one saw us do all of this.
Not that you're aware. You look around of your Auspex. You see very far. Certainly no mortals witnessed this. And if there's anything, and no wraiths, no ghosts, they haven't been looking at you this entire time.
Cool.
So the only real risk is that maybe if there was a Canite spy or a Canite of Obfuscate bumped into you with enough power to hide from your Auspex, but unlikely, unless they were already there to begin with. But again, that would be highly coincidental. The risk is fairly low.
Cool. Yeah. In that case, I will wrap the Obfuscate around Baelor, and we will depart.
Yes. You have stealth 3.
Yeah, so basically, we're just going to walk out.
All right. So you're not gonna you're not gonna cloak the gathering on most of you.
No,
right. Is the cloak specifically restricted to Baelor?
You know what? Fuck it. I'll send Ishar and Nimhar home.
Okay.
Back to thing, and I'll cloak the 3 of us as we make our way. Mostly, yeah, and then we'll make our way out.
Or you could cloak the ghouls and Baelor, and the Bata could just cloak herself.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I forgot she also has Obfuscate.
Yeah, she is a Sedite.
So yeah, I'll cloak the ghoul. She can do it to herself, and we'll meet back home at the temple.
Sounds good. And I think with that, after a successful mission with a bonus Cappadocian, we can end the scene there.
I feel like
Thank you. Sorry.
Hashtag this Cappadocian. Sorry, continue.
Hashtag preset.
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 Oh shit! I've got light in.